going down. Tired of myself, tired of this town.
Eminent Waste of Time, episode 51. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
It's been a while since we've been back to our quote-unquote normal format.
Our normal digs here, yeah.
So we had two back-to-back kind of interview-style episodes, and then we got interviewed on episode 50, and there's kind of a backlog of stuff.
Yeah, but it was good. It was good to get out and see all the different places.
It was fun. A lot of people said they appreciated the change of scenery, which I don't know if that meant different faces instead of just ours.
Probably. You guys didn't get to see my refrigerator. It's still over there.
It's still empty because the son still lives here.
Yeah.
But you may have seen from some of our updates recently that we are working on the studio, which
we're not in, as you can tell.
No, because it's, I don't know, 87 degrees outside, and my pole barn's not insulated, and the one wall is an outside wall facing south, so that wall is probably 900 degrees right now.
Yeah.
So not exactly what we're looking for to do our inaugural podcast in. But
yeah, us sweating and no thanks.
No, pass on that. But we are going to be getting to that fairly soon because today was a prime example of why we want a studio space. We're scrounging trying to find ways to set up the camera, and because I forgot the tripod and we had to set everything back up from moving things around, and it's gonna be really nice to have that place.
Yep, really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to we can have some of the racers over, different people over, and they're not that I care that they come to my house or that I care that they go to Doug's house, but it'd make everybody feel a little bit more comfortable, and you can just hang out, do whatever.
I know I'm more comfortable when I'm not at your place. So
yeah, well, that's how it is.
That's actually not true at all. You're very hospitable despite your prickly demeanor.
Yes. I lull you in with a false sense of security, then the traps.
And there it is. So we're starting to wrap up racing season here a little bit. I think MWXC has 3 rounds left.
Yep.
And Midwest side-by-side has, is it 1 or 2? I think it might only be 1 left.
1 or 2. I don't know. Something like that.
IXCR is about the same. I think they have about 3 left. So we're starting to come to that end of the season and start talking about awards, banquets, and that kind of stuff. But
yep, it is getting to that point.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, we actually did go racing this past weekend to you guys because this is Sunday. We're recording this.
Yeah.
And we went yesterday, and we're still sore.
I'm not so sore. We tried to make it better for you guys. Like I think we've talked about it in the previous episodes, but we decided to start recording on a Sunday so that instead of, we do something over the weekend and then it's a week and a half when you guys finally hear us talk about it. Now it's 2 days later.
Yeah, and at that point, you've already heard probably everything you care to about the race or whatever happened that particular weekend, and you're on to something else, and then our podcast comes out and rehashes it again. So we actually had some people ask for this early on. They liked the Tuesday release, but they didn't like the fact that everything was about a week and a half off. So
I get it. It's something we had to rearrange schedules for and stuff like that.
And again, the studio makes that a whole lot easier.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter what the family schedule is, we have a dedicated space. So,
and the board will be set up, and the camera will be a place for it, and everything else. We'll have just a way to do it easier.
Well, and we've got some racers who have decided to very generously donate stuff like door skins and other race-related memorabilia. So we'll actually have, dare I say it, a set.
So while we're on that subject, let's throw it out there for anybody else who wants to donate. We'll say memorabilia, we'll call it. I know at the end of the season, a lot of racers end up pulling parts off if they're damaged and, like they got a door skin that's had a big nasty dent in it all year.
Or maybe you're just going to rewrap the vehicle next year anyways and totally redo all the skins or something like that.
Yeah. We will take those. If you want to get those to us, reach out to us, Facebook, YouTube, or any of the others, however you want to reach out to us. And we'll get you an address to send those. And what we want to do is hang them up around the studio. Because what we'd like to have is where you guys see your parts, you see some of the racers' parts that we've been talking about, and you feel like, you guys are part of it. It's not just us sitting there talking about it. Because when we go out to these races, we hang out with the racers, we text and message in between the races and everything else. we want you guys to feel like you're part of it, not just like we're talking about other people the whole time. So it's your show too.
Exactly. And we don't necessarily need just big bulky stuff. I mean, we'll take whatever, but if everybody we know sends us a full roof or door skin, we're going to run out of space real fast. So
yeah,
if you have something, you know, your prized bent tie rod or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. We'll find a space for it.
We'll find a space for it on the set, and I think it'll be neat.
Yep.
This is not just our junk laying around, it's everyone else's junk.
I got bent tie rods still, I think, or I might have thrown them away, but I
hope you did.
parts.
I don't need to remember those.
I had a plethora. Plenty of those suckers around.
So the other thing I want to get to before we dive in is we have another iTunes review.
We have a iTunes review.
We have two.
Ooh.
Because Fuzzy gave us one pretty much right out of the gate.
Yeah,
but then,
he did. Was your mom the other one now?
No.
Okay.
I was looking at it the other day, and I don't have it up right now. I apologize, and maybe I'll dig that up in just a second here if I can do it quickly and not create an awkward gap. But I think it might be Ethan Perry.
Tell you what.
By the username. I'm not sure, but it was very nice.
Yeah. So I'll fill the gap while you're talking about, or you're looking for the iTunes thing. So what we're doing with the studio, we've already showed some videos on it, but where we're at currently, we got the door mounted, the outside OSB up, and we're putting floor joists / roof joists in to hang drywall this week and get the rest of the OSB outside skin up, start running electrical, stuff like that. It's really not going to be too awful far away from getting in there, but you know how it is. The finish work takes time. But yeah, it's not going to be too bad.
You're going to have to just dust off your body man skills because,
yeah,
I mean, the reality is
body work is the same as drywall work.
Drywall work's just easier.
Yeah.
Especially for a seasoned veteran like yourself.
Yeah, I've done my fair share.
There's our podcast.
Look, we have one. iTunes didn't delete us yet.
No, they probably wanted to, but okay. So, wow, there's a lot of episodes on there. I sometimes forget.
Well, 50 of them right now.
So, yeah, it's DSL Doug 77.
Is that you?
I promise you it is not me. I thought the same thing. I'm like, nobody's going to believe that this is actually
Doug's
not
to review on our own podcast.
Well, I wasn't born in 77, so...
Okay, good point.
I was born in 80. So Chad and Doug are a perfect blend of funny and informative. With an hour-long podcast every week, it's the perfect length. Strongly recommend this show.
Huh.
We have 2 reviews. The reason I bring this up, though, is because it is super, super helpful for us to have reviews. It changes the whole dynamic of how iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you listen to this promotes our show. The involvement on YouTube has actually driven our show from you having to look specifically for it to actually being, in certain cases, recommended content.
Yeah.
Which shows they really don't know what it's about. But... It really drives that kind of growth when you guys can take a second and interact. So we're begging, but not for money or time or anything else. Well, I guess a time, but like
a few
20 seconds.
Yeah.
Leave a review. I don't care if you say you hate it. It's kind of one of those, any coverage
feedback is good.
Yeah, any coverage is good coverage. Anything that keeps you in the public eye.
Yeah. The funny thing is that review is more informative than probably all of our shows.
True. Maybe we should get DSL Doug 77 on here to do the show.
Yeah.
It might be better. So anyways, thank you for that, whoever you are. And yeah, just if you could take a second would be extremely helpful. So if you enjoy the show, and it appears there might be, we used to say tens of people, there might be dozens of people now.
20s of people.
20s of people or something along those lines.
Is that how that's worded?
So, I don't know. Is anything we do correct?
Nope, probably not.
So, anyways, we did go Midwest side-by-side racing yesterday for us. For you guys, it'll be Saturday, a few days prior.
Yep.
And honestly, it was an absolute blast.
Yep, weather was good.
And it's funny because they're a smaller series, so they're not doing a lot of the big pageantry. You don't roll up and see huge banners everywhere and rock music blaring, and it's not like pulling up to a GNCC event.
No, it's not.
You pull up, it's like going out to your grandpa's, 100-acre field and running, really. It's kind of what it reminded me of. But that's not a bad thing at all. They're starting small. They're building up. They don't want to buy thousands and thousands of dollars worth of stuff that is going to bankrupt them and then put an end to the series.
Right.
You know, as they continue to grow, they'll get the nicer stuff and things move on from there. But what they did do is put on an awesome race with a really good track.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about their series before in the past, and they only race side-by-sides there. So they build the track really only with side-by-sides in mind. So the width is right. The length is normally good. Motocross sections that they have, which a lot of other series don't, that is really what sets them apart, are built to where you can jump a side-by-side. It's not a dirt bike track.
In fact, we'll insert a video right here of that happening.
Of the one and only Mr. Steve Mueller.
I probably should pause the audio of us talking and edit in a certain sound effect. Oh, that might have to happen.
So he was about the only one to air that thing out. And Steve is not normally a big fan of jumping or anything else, but that jump was set up about right for a side-by-side.
It really was, but it may have cost him a shock.
Yeah, he thinks he blew out his left rear horsing around on that jump, quite possibly.
But it was awesome. It was
Every
totally
time
worth it.
around, he would hit that jump, and I got a picture, and we'll see if it came out good. I'll tell you why I got a picture here in a little bit. But he was between 4 and 6 feet off the top of the tabletop, which would put him probably 20 feet in the air total. Yeah. And he could almost clear the whole thing.
So close.
Almost. I mean,
there's a little more run up he probably would have, although I don't know that you'd want to.
I don't know that you'd want to either. He was landing it pretty good, and it didn't look like it was too painful from the video footage that he'd sent us and all that. So,
but normally we would have a lot more footage and pictures and that kind of stuff. But honestly, we went there to race this time for a change.
We were just busy the whole time.
So I actually raced both of them. The first one, so they do 2 races if you're not familiar with the format. The first race is thousands in the front row, and then the back row is 900s and 800s.
They race the 800s and 900s together in one class.
And then you've got the second race is just pros. So the pros are out there by themselves. They don't have to worry about slower machines or anything along those lines.
I like the way they do it.
It is nice. I think eventually they might have to go to a third race or something along those lines if they want to divide them up further. Because with the amount of single seat interest, I'll put, not the single seat machines necessarily, but the interest in the RS1. I think they may have to, maybe they'll just do it with the pro race where they have a second row and it's RS1s in behind the pros.
Yeah.
Because they're going to keep up better there. They're going to kind of blow away the field if you put them in with just the normal heavies.
Yeah. Now, the thing I really like about it being a racer is, and the thing that irks me about being a racer in the other series, and it's nothing against the other series at all, but when I race the other series, I run and then I don't get to see any of the racing. This way, no matter which class I run, let's say I run the pro row, I get to sit around and watch the heavies, the 1000s and the 800s. I get to watch them run and race, and that's fun.
Unless you're dumb enough to be me, in which case you go out and you run both races.
Yeah. But, I that's what I like, because even the 800s, they're fun to watch as long as there's a close race, as long as there's a battle somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fun to watch. And you get the thousands out there, and they're running pretty much the same speed, not quite, but as the turbos and stuff. So, as long as there's a good battle in there, which there always seems to be one or two, it's fun to watch. And it's fun to watch these guys that run because, like we've said, we're all kind of hanging out before and after, and it's neat that they get to race and I get to race, and, we all kind of watch each other go.
And I think the pros like it as well, because not that they resent the smaller, slower machines, but it does create a problematic situation for them when they come roaring up behind an 800 in the woods and there's nowhere to get around.
Well, and the other thing is the pros really, those high horsepower machines, you got Devin and you got Devin Smith and you got Matt Rowell and stuff like these guys that have these 200 and something horsepower machines, they just eat the track up. And then it eats it up so the little 800s, nothing against the 800s, they can't get through because the thousands and the turbos spin up the track and create these big ruts because they're turning 29s and the little 800s are turning 26s, and it's just they're riding on the belly and then they can't get through, and then it's a bottleneck and they're stuck and whatever.
And we did tear that track up.
Yeah.
The first race, again, was the, thousands in the front row, 800s and 900s together in the second row. And I ran that one with Cam Mapes.
Yep.
And man, can he drive. We ended up pushing our way through the field, and we're in an 800, mind you. Ended up, before the race came to a rather unfortunate end, we were out on our fourth lap. We were first place in the 800, 900 row. We were actually third place overall. And so we're out on our fourth lap, and he had the most bizarre failure I've ever seen. Completely not his fault. We were running good. I was thinking we've got it in the bag. The next time around, probably would have brought out the white. And then, that's it, home free, one more lap. Well, his goggles flipped up on edge. So picture you're wearing your goggles and they flip up 90 degrees. So now you're looking through them from the top to the bottom.
Through the foam.
I don't know how that happens. I've never seen it happen, but that's exactly what happened to him. So we were going through a little whoop section, and then it's you're kind of weaving through the trees, and there's a little bit of mud right there. And so they flip up at the perfect time where we come out of that little whoop. He slams on the brakes because he can't see. I'm trying to look over to see what's going on, and he turns slightly, and it basically put the front tire right into a tree on the passenger side at about, I don't know, probably 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, it pushed it back. It tore the tabs off the frame where the A-arms mount.
Yeah.
It was just, it stunk. I mean, he was running so good. He was running a clean race, hadn't clipped a tree, hadn't done anything to the buggy. I mean, he was just out there running an incredible race. And my heart kind of broke for him. He really took it in stride.
Yeah.
I mean, it's racing, stuff happens, darn it, but he really took it a lot better than I did, because inside I was kind of ticked off.
Yep. So, yeah, that was rough. And I spent the first race with Cody Willenborg. We were tooling around in the old Rhino that they have as like the track vehicle, playing track sweeps. Now, there's not a whole lot you can do to get anybody out in the middle of a side-by-side race.
No, and again, being a smaller series, too, they don't have, tractors and skid steers and that kind of stuff to even attempt, really.
Right. But we were basically going around and make sure anybody who did wreck, they were okay. There was no emergency problems. And if somebody wanted to walk out and then come back and get the machine later, we were pointing them in the direction that they could go and everything else. Trying to, make sure that the track wasn't being cut and all that stuff, which it was. There's a spot where the two sides of the track, we'll call it the front side and the back side, came within probably 100 feet of each other, and there was a path connecting them. And you know how racers are. They'll just, that's a path. There's arrows over there. That's clearly the way I need to go. And so,
and I almost steered him in the wrong direction because that happened. There's a part of the track where the two sides where you're going one direction, then you did a loop around and came back the other direction. We're only 100 feet apart.
Yeah.
And the way the arrows were situated and the complete lack of tape or bannering in that one section, I thought we just kind of cut left through the woods right there, because I saw buggies going back the other way. And luckily Cam caught me and said, no, we go this way. And I look and I see more arrows pointing the other way. I'm like, okay, we'll go that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't screw that up again for the rest of my time there. But yeah, it's hard when you're blasting through the woods at speed sometimes if things aren't really clearly marked. Sometimes you just kind of assume, and also right in that area was a trail from a previous race or a previous ride. So it kind of naturally
fed into it.
It naturally looked like maybe you are supposed to go that way, because this was only the second lap of the day. So everything looked about the same. There weren't the real deep ruts on the track that you were supposed to be on yet.
Yeah. And when Cody and I were looking at it, we finally did put up some tape to stop people from cutting. But the thing is, I told him, I said, if I don't see an arrow as a racer, what I'll do is I'll look at the ground and I'll see where the dirt is turned over. Like if there's a path there from racers have been driving over that, I follow that. I'm not saying that's the best plan, but if I don't see an arrow, that's pretty much a sure sign. You're tracking side-by-sides at that point. So that's kind of how I watch it. And, yeah. A little story from the 800s just to show how much, everyone's kind of a race family. It's pretty wild that Mike Plank on, I think it was the very first lap, he blew a tire. And, he pulls around and it was flat and he knew it. And he was just going to pull over and that was going to be that, because he wasn't going to ruin anything more. Cam's dad, Brad Mapes, comes up and says, we got a spare tire over in the trailer. If you want it, let's go throw it on. So the kid that Mike is trying to beat, and they're in a points battle right now, they offered up their spare tire to Mike Plank so that he could go back out there and keep running. And that says something to me. I mean, they could have just not said anything, and that would have gave Cam, next time Cam came around, hey, Mike's out, just run slow and easy, and you got the win in the bag. But they wanted to see him battle it out.
Yeah, and I really appreciated that Mike's like, he wanted to tell him he doesn't have to push, he doesn't have to kill himself. I just want him to finish. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, Mike even said, he's got me by a lap. Tell him he doesn't have to go real fast. He'll win. Just tell him to keep running. And at that point, they said, we haven't seen him in a while.
And that's where we found out that Mike had actually
been cutting the course.
He'd been cutting the course in the exact same place that I wanted to, because he saw the same thing. He saw tracks. The arrows were somewhat ambiguous, and he went that direction, and he skipped the section we had broken down on, so he couldn't figure out where the heck we were.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated the sportsmanship there of, hey, you know what? He's got me. Tell him to take it easy, get his last lap in and finish.
Yeah. So,
but the other story coming out of that was Brianna. I'm sorry, I can't talk today. Brianna Mahon, who is a monster truck driver. You may recognize the last name. Their family is big into motorsports, but she's driven Scooby-Doo for the past couple of years.
The monster truck
for Monster Jam, and she's got a brand new truck this year called Whiplash.
Yep.
That I don't know if you've seen, but it's a pretty nice looking truck.
Yes.
She likes all things motorsports as well, and she actually came out and raced with us.
Yep.
Had an unfortunate meeting with a tree on the same driver's side front, not too far from where we broke down.
Yeah.
And we actually were able to help her get hers out of the woods. Her dad was riding with her as co-driver, and they had been able to unbolt the shock and then use the winch and some ratchet straps to pick the suspension up on that side. And then Cam and I jumped on the opposite side, on the driver's side,
like
just
ballast.
as ballast, and got that up enough in the air that we were able to drive it out. We actually ended up on Highway 40 driving down the side of the road with people giving us crazy looks, and then turned back into where the track was. But
racers, we always get crazy looks.
I was going to say, but that was kind of neat that she came out and raced with us, and she's off now somewhere else to get back into the next Monster Jam event. So
yeah.
That was kind of neat to have her out there, and we appreciate you stopping by, and glad we could give you a hand getting out of there.
Yep. So, yeah, I don't think there is anything else too crazy that happened in the first race of the day.
No, the track actually improved. We were a little worried about the creek crossings going away, but they actually got better, kind of sloshed some things around and filled in some other ruts that were there and just kind of evened it out a little bit for the pros.
Yeah, there was a few muddy holes, but it was nothing really that anybody was getting stuck in. It was just, there was slick spaces.
Yeah. There was one spot that it was not just mud. It was definitely some sort of farm field runoff. Because my
cows live just uphill of it, I think.
Because I left my race suit in the back of my car last night. I was so tired when I got home. I was like, I'll take it out of the trunk in the morning. I get in my car this morning, and it was in the trunk, mind you.
Yeah.
My car just stunk to high heaven. I was like, okay, I got to get this junk out of here. In fact, after this, I need to go home and get the pressure washer out and get the top layers of filth off of everything so I can even attempt to put them in the washing machine.
Yeah.
Because I am not putting it in there like it is right now. We'll need a new washing machine if I do that.
So, second race.
The pros.
So, I'm not saying it completely was my fault, but I was kind of the holdup for starting the second race, and I'll explain why. I drove Cody Willenborg, the CW Motorsports pink buggy, as they call it. It's pink cage. The whole thing's not pink.
Now, this is the same one that Peyton normally drives. She drives in the 1,000 class in the first race.
And she did. So Chad got a muddy, dirty buggy to start off the second race in. Yes.
And she used your helmet.
She did use my helmet.
So you got a pre-mudded helmet, too.
Yeah, it was all pre-mudded and sweated in and yuck. So, but Peyton she's pretty short, and she likes to sit real close to the steering wheel, so we had to pop the seats and slide the sliders back because we literally, for hers, ran them all the way forward.
You probably couldn't even fit behind the wheel, let alone be comfortable.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I could fit, but there's no way I would have been comfortable. My knees would have been in the dash. So we had to pop the seats and move that and loosen the harnesses up so that myself and Mike Plank would fit in there. So that's my first time sitting in the buggy was on the way to the line. Like,
Yeah.
I started it, drove it to the line.
No seat time whatsoever.
This is it. We're going to see what happens with it. So that was the reason I was a little bit late to the line. I mean, we're not talking a bunch. 5 minutes, maybe. I mean, I don't think anybody waited too long.
No, it wasn't bad.
We were trying to move as quick as we could.
They were kind of waiting on me, too, because my goggles were all screwed up from the first race. So I'm trying to clean my goggles and reload roll-off film. And
yeah.
So we were all pushing it a little bit, but it wasn't bad.
So, yeah. And you rode with Mr. Matt Rowell.
I did indeed. And that was a wild ride. It was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of people, he's going to scare you to death. And I don't scare on racetracks. I am a go, go, go type of person. You will not freak me out, but it was a ton of fun. Yeah.
I bet it would be. I'd like to ride with him at some point.
I'm sure that can be arranged.
I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah, I'd like to. I'd like to this year. That's kind of, it'd be neat.
Either him or Devin, they both give as good as they get. And in this one, we ended up victorious. We took first place overall, but Devin was right there. And we started off in the motocross section, and so it's pretty dry and dusty. They hadn't had any rain there this week.
Yeah.
And so when those buggies get ripping, they're just kicking dust up left and right. So we take off, and Devin ends up beating us out just slightly and gets into the wood in front of us. Now, once he's slightly in front, we have to back off because we cannot see where we're going. So we back off until we get into the woods where the track, is damp and there's no dust. And we're following him through the woods. And I mean, we're trying to stay with him, and we are, but there's very limited places to get around. And probably about a mile into the track, he made that little crucial mistake. He made that one little bobble, and I did have the advantage of having ridden already, so I knew right where the corners were. And I told Matt to get around, like to go, get around him, and we did push around him, and Devin backed off just a little bit. And had he not, we would have been neck and neck, and he probably would have had us on the next corner. Yeah. But it was that little bobble he made because he wasn't sure exactly where the turn was, and we got around him, and then we were out in front for the rest of it. Yeah. But had it not been for that, I don't know that we would have gotten around him. It's tough to say, but it was that close between them that one little bobble was the thing that changed it. And after chasing us for a couple laps, he said he just kind of backed off and maintained the distance he was at because he knew
he wasn't going to catch
it wasn't going to catch us. So
yeah.
But man, I've never ridden with Matt before. I've seen him race, but when you watch a side-by-side race, you're not really watching a driver the whole time. You're watching them at a moment in time. Yeah. Around one corner, up one hill, or on one section of the track, because as quick as they appear, they're gone again. So I'd seen how smooth he was in sections, but man, it was great riding with him because I'm telling you, it's unreal how he weaves that thing between trees at speed. Yeah. But it was never nerve-wracking like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely ridiculous. He's so smooth and skillful at it, you don't even get nervous. You just have this confidence that no, he's not going to hit anything. And for the entire race, he didn't. Yeah. I mean, he'll tell you he screwed up a couple places, but they were so minor compared to what, normal drivers like us would consider a screw up. Yeah. Yeah, so it was an absolute blast. We got out in front, like I said, about a mile and change in, and stayed out in front the rest of the time. And Devin kind of hung about 25, 30 seconds back most of the race, and we just kind of kept running that same circuit. It was funny because every time we'd come through, I'd look back, and he was at the exact same point in the track coming through where we were. Like I could see him the same time. I almost set my watch by it. Yeah.
Yep, you try and as a co-driver look and see if someone's gaining because you'll see the car behind you at certain points, either an open section or where the track doubles back, and you can, okay, they were at this tree. Well, now they're closer, so we know that they're gaining. Either we're falling back or they're picking up.
Yeah, but it was pretty darn consistent, and Matt knew where we were on the track, versus him. So we ended up just running our race, pretty much ran by ourselves most of the time. Had some lappers here and there that we had to signal to get out of the way, but not too bad overall. The thing is the track started going away in spots. Yeah. The ruts started getting deep enough in one spot that even Matt during the race made a comment about, I don't even need to steer. Yeah. Just follow in the ruts. And that's the kind of stuff you were talking about. If the pros go first and do that, and then you try and put those little 800s out there.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah. So
we had that, and then we got through There's just one particularly nasty section of the track. The last probably quarter of the track was really bad. I mean, there's a bunch of deep, hard whoops. There was one creek crossing that was just an absolute disaster. We found, a good route around it. And then there was one high-speed section that just beat the ever-loving snot out of you every time you went over it. Your only bet was to go as fast as you could.
Try and skip across the top.
But the chatter just, I mean, it's like getting punched in the kidneys.
Yeah.
It was terrible. So I was...
Terrible and fun all at the same time.
Exactly. I had a great time, and you know what? I'd go do it again in a heartbeat, but I was pretty happy to see the white flag. I was like, okay, one more. I can do one more.
I can hang in there.
Plus, my goggles were done at that point. I had done everything I could to keep them healthy. I had my hand in front of my face during the muddy sections to... kind of try and save them where I didn't have to use the roll-off film as much, but the gear, the pull string gear mechanism had completely bound up.
Yeah.
And I had nothing left. So that last lap, I was kind of squinting through the mud droplets and kind of like being on a roller coaster with your eyes closed.
Yeah. So I guess I'll give you guys a summary of my race, which it'll be entertaining, although the race wasn't all that long for me again.
I felt so bad for you when we came around on the second lap, and I saw you and Plank standing there, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
This is why we can't have nice things.
I did. I was just like, man, normally I think it's kind of funny. I actually felt bad for you.
So like I said, I was driving the CW Motorsports Pink Machine, as it will hence be known for.
Even if it ever changes colors,
It'll just be the Pink Machine.
it'll still be the Pink Machine.
So I got a bad start, and the thousands are usually a little quicker to start, and it wasn't the machine, it was completely me. They called 30 seconds, and so Cody has an intercom in his. I know how it works, roughly. I mean, it's close to the same intercom as what I have, and I've had in other machines. Mike Plank had no idea, and he was borrowing Cody's helmet, so he had an intercom in it. And we're trying to turn it on, and while I'm looking down and reaching down to like try and flip it on, okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And he's like, I can kind of hear you. I hear the horn go off to start. I go, oh crap! And I just reach up and hit the key and just stick my foot to the floor. Like, I hope it's running, because if it's not, I'm flooding it now. I mean, because everyone's roaring at this point. I mean,
yeah,
you can't tell.
Yeah,
you just
don't
can't.
know.
So I don't know. I think after the first turn, we filed in. I was 6th or something like that. I would have liked to have been closer to the front, because like Doug was talking about, the dust in that open section in the beginning part, it was bad. And if you stay right on the car in front of you, everybody is okay. If you back off 10 feet, you and everyone behind you can't see now.
Yeah, forget it.
You either stay on their bumper or you don't drive fast. It was bad enough to the point in there in the start that you couldn't see 15, 20 feet in front of you at all. So all I did was, because we were back far enough, and like the 3rd or 4th place guy had backed off enough that I just stayed right on the bumper of the turbo machine in front of me. And this is a 1000 naturally aspirated Razor. I mean, I'm down horsepower compared to most of these guys. So, and like I said, I had just climbed in it. Like, strap in, we'll see what happens. Mike, hope you're okay with this. And so I just stayed right on their tail. That machine, it's got good power for 1,000. Nothing against it in that department. If you drive it hard, I was pushing 2 turbos through the woods when I was in the woods. But we were coming to the last corner before we ducked into the woods, and I had already, like, it's narrower than my Razor, so, whatever. I couldn't tell how much higher it sat than my Razor, because the cages are different, the seats are different, everything's different. So I didn't have a good feel of how high am I sitting compared to the center of gravity. Well, I come around that last corner, and right after that last corner, there's a jump that's probably, 50 or 70 feet away. I put that thing up on 2 wheels far enough. Mike Plank was like, oh no, we're on the edge. He thought we were going over, and several of the spectator people, like Keith Garner, Precision Powder Coat, he was watching it, and a few other guys. And when you're in it and you're in the heat of the race and everything else, you don't think about it so much. I mean, I knew I was up on two wheels. That wasn't the question. How high is it on two wheels? You know, are the tires a foot off the ground, or are they 3 or 4 feet off the ground? There's a large difference there. They said they thought I was going over. I felt perfectly comfortable. I actually drove it on two wheels for, I don't know, 20 feet until I was like, okay, I'm straight with the jump, and now I'll set it down and I'll hit the jump. Yeah.
Nice.
So we only made it a half a lap. And as we're about to the end of our race before the inevitable happens, I even made the comment to Mike, because several times, probably in half a lap, I was on two wheels 8, 10, 12 times. Just on two wheels. And Mike even said, there were several times that I was really concerned we were going over. And he was like, man, good driving. You brought it back down. I was like, yeah, I'm getting used to that now. I'll just bring it back down. I'll ride it on two wheels. But it's a different razor, and I was completely just railing the thing as hard as I could through the woods to keep up with these turbos, and I was probably pushing it slightly harder.
Maybe a bit.
When I'm driving on two wheels.
Touch.
I told Mike, I said, we were on two wheels entirely too much. He said, yeah, maybe so. But so what happened was we came to one of these it's a muddy straight section is where we were. And we hit this puddle, and that's all it really was a puddle that was, I don't know, 6-8 inches deep of mud water.
Yep. And
as soon as we hit that, the suspension, we hydroplaned. I knew we were going to. It was nothing that like, oh no. We hydroplaned, so the suspension unloads a little bit, and then as soon as the suspension started to get weight back on it, it instantly, it's just like slumps over to the right and just starts growling, just roar, and I'm like, something's rubbing horribly bad. And I asked Mike, I go, what's that? And he undoes his belt and he looks out and he goes, man, you blew a ball joint out or something, because it's just slouched over on that right front. So ends up, what happened, we didn't hit anything. I didn't bump anything, nothing. But what we think happened, because Peyton said that they hit a tree, her and Sam, he was the co-driver for her. And what actually happened was where the ball joint, the lower ball joint, sits in the lower control arm, instead of that being a closed ring like it is, it had opened up to a C, and it just spit the ball joint out the end of that control arm. So the ball joint was no longer in it there, and I don't know if it broke before or after, but it broke that whole lower part off, and it still left the stem of the ball joint sticking in the knuckle. So
it wasn't a you thing. You didn't hit anything.
No.
It just was a failure.
It just was. I mean, it probably had a crack in it when Peyton raced. Now, Peyton wasn't feeling well, so she was not trying to run fast. She was just trying to put in a race to keep her in points. So, you know, I don't think she was beating it hard through the woods to try and make time. But, yeah, I got out there, and it was just like,
Well, and there's no way you could tell. I mean, the machine was mud covered, so
yeah.
If there was an obvious defect there, or a crack or a split, you probably wouldn't have noticed it regardless, but you really couldn't have seen it. I mean,
no.
The machine was already muddy, and it just was what it was.
Yeah.
I did feel bad for you, though. I couldn't see because it was on the side of the car. It was, again, the passenger front. It was a bad day for passenger front suspension. But I couldn't see it because of the way you were parked.
Yeah.
And the rest of the buggy looked fine, so my immediate assumption was that you blew a belt.
Yeah. No, belt held up just fine. I mean, for the half lap I put on it. But, yeah, it stunk. I feel bad for Mike because, you know, we were having fun and all that. But who I really feel bad for is Cody, because, and it's like he said, you know, it's part of racing. Cody was perfectly fine with it and everything else. You know, I really feel bad because I wanted to put on a good showing for his machine, too, as much as I wanted to win. So,
you know what? It is what it is. Wasn't your fault. It's hard to race a machine back-to-back like that without going over it again and taking a look. It had already been through a 1-hour race, so it is what it is.
Yep, it's how it is, and yeah.
So I think my record is now safely ahead of yours.
Of broken machines?
No, of actually finishing.
Oh, yeah, probably.
It's easier to count finishes than than broken machines at this point. We got a few other things we probably should get to.
Yep.
Before the inevitable. I think you were lining up trivia for me again.
Not yet, but yes.
Well, let's jump into IXCR for 2019.
Yep.
They've got some new classes.
What IXCR done is basically copied of what GNCC classes were.
So now you've got your front rows, your pros, turbo machines, like normal.
Yep.
But then you've got I think it's the second row. Is that the single seat or ace class?
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to run them.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to line them up. We'll put it that way. But they did come up with a new single seat class.
So they've got a single seat class. Now, the reason they're calling it, well, it's actually a single driver class.
They call it single driver class.
Because it's not just for RS1s or aces. It is also for normal side-by-sides with no co-driver.
I don't believe you can run a turbo in there.
No, you can't.
I believe, yeah.
All the other classes are naturally aspirated. The only turbo class is row 1
You have to
pro.
run pro row.
Yes. So you've got that, and then you've got your normal heavy machines, your naturally aspirated 1000s and stuff that have to have a co-driver.
Have a co-driver.
And that is row 3. Row 2 is the single driver class.
Okay.
And then
they added a
row
women's
4
class.
is women's, and then row 5 is your lights, your 800s and stuff.
Yep.
So I've got mixed feelings about some of it. I like that they're mixing it up and they're changing it. I'm not entirely sure how I feel. I have no problem with them being an RS1 style class. I don't know how I feel about lumping in normal side-by-sides with no co-driver.
Yeah.
That's the one that actually kind of really bothers me is the women's class, because
that one irks me.
I don't see there's any particular reason why women shouldn't just be running in the machine class that they belong in.
Yeah. Well, and I even talked to 2 women racers this weekend who were there at the Midwest side-by-side race. They both agreed with me. I said, you tell me what advantage I, as a man, have over you as a woman racer in a side-by-side. I can't physically turn the wheel faster. I can't turn it more. I can't push the gas pedal harder and make it accelerate faster. I have zero advantage. These things are not a factor at all.
Exactly. And it's not like being on a dirt bike or even a quad where sometimes a little more mass helps you muscle the machine around.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a different type of situation. This is strapped into a buggy, go, go, go. And if they want to run it, fine. It's their series. They can do whatever they want. But that's the one standout to me that I thought, I really don't understand that move particularly. But it might be a little bit different if you said, well, it's kind of a class where, I don't want to sound sexist here, but perhaps...
Too late if you got to preface it with that.
Well, yeah, it is kind of too late. But some women are just not as aggressive of drivers. The ones that don't care, they say, I want to be in the same class as the men, should absolutely be there. But I think it's probably a class for, look, you get to run against other women. And I just see it out there on the track time and time again that there are a group of women who race that aren't as aggressive as the men are. And maybe they're more comfortable in that class by themselves. But the thing is,
they're going to be on the track.
They're going to be on the track at the same time. It's not like they're running this race in a vacuum, just the women's class. They're still going to have to deal with, Kyle Chaney or Devin Smith or Matt Rowell or whoever shows up, like barreling down on them through the woods,
Yeah. I'm not saying they're doing it only so that they get plaques and trophies. And I even said to the women racers that I was talking to this weekend, I said, and, hate me if you want to because of it, if you're a woman racer and you want a plaque or a trophy, drive harder. Because if I'm a man racer and I want a plaque or a trophy, what's my only option? Drive harder.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. That's all I can do.
Get better. Get into the sport.
And I disagree strongly with the whole thing that a lot of the kids' sports do now where everybody gets a trophy. No. If you're bad at a sport, you shouldn't get a trophy. We did bad last year racing. I shouldn't get a trophy for everyone. I just shouldn't. The ones I did well on, give me a trophy. The other ones, no, I should not.
No, there should be a reward for excellence and hard work, and that's what a lot of it comes down to. The fastest racers I know are the ones that work at it. And it does. It's not, I don't care how much natural talent you have, you have to put in the reps and the time and the practice. You have to.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're just not going to get there. So that one's a little shaky to me. I you know, again, it's their series. They can do what they want, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But I talked to some women racers as well, and same thing. The ones who want to race just want to compete in the same class with men. It doesn't matter. You run 1,000, then you run the heavies. You run a pro or a turbo. You run in the pros, and it's just the way it is. Like I said, I'm really kind of leery about that whole normal UTV single seat type of, you know, or the no co-driver, but it's not a huge deal. I think the reason you can get away with it is because it's naturally aspirated. So yeah, you do have a horsepower to weight advantage over a naturally aspirated machine with a, let's average it, say 190 pound co-driver.
Yeah.
But that's why they're in different classes. And, you know, it's like the pros more than make up for it with the extra horsepower. So they're not really worried about them taking away a spot from a pro, unless that's just a really slow pro that probably shouldn't be in that row at all anyways.
Yeah.
So I'll be curious to see how that works out. It's an interesting concept, and I guess what it does do is kind of build the field up, because RS1s are becoming more popular.
Yeah.
But there's not a ton of them out there yet.
Right.
They're not really pervasive. So this gives you a competition where, okay, maybe you've got 3 RS1s and another couple buggies that they don't want to have a co-driver, and now you actually have a row.
Well, see, I don't have as big of a problem with it, because I look at it like this. If I would normally run the heavies and I can't get my co-driver to be there, I'll just run that class. It won't count for points for my other class, but I still get to go out and race.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it as such. I just would hate to see a precedent of co-drivers going away in UTVs. I guess I think because there's people that are already saying, well, why don't we just do away with co-drivers then?
Well, and I understand why. There's a race series, and they're going to remain unnamed. And I talked to the owner of this race series. It's a brand new race series. The guy has absolutely zero, from his own mouth, race experience in any race series in any form. So he said, I want to start a race series. And he started posting rules about what his race series was going to have. And I chimed in, not publicly. I kind of sent him a message and said, you may want to think about doing this and this and this. This is kind of the standard. I think you're going to, you know, this will benefit you. I have nothing to gain from this, whether he took any of my advice or all of my advice. So whatever. But he will run no co-drivers. They are not allowed. And I tried to explain to him, and another person I know who is, well, Cody Willenborg, also tried to talk to him and explain to him why you need to, if not require it, at least allow it and suggest it, why you should have a co-driver. And we've probably stated it before. Let's take Doug and Cam out there this weekend. If something had happened to Cam when he hit that tree and everyone else was cutting that course, every racer who came around basically at that point was cutting the course. They were all doing it. I'm not beating up on any racer. No one would have saw Cam, and if he's laying back there hurt and he has no co-driver, what happens?
Yeah. It's a whole different ball game. It's not like, well, the quads run by themselves and the dirt bikes run by themselves. They're not even in the same ballpark in terms of what can happen out there. Just the speed and the weight of the machines. There's so many different variables in there. You really, really, on average, do need somebody there. Yeah. I mean, in RS1, it's impossible, but you're making that choice to run that particular class of machine. But to across the board,
say no co-drivers.
I don't like it. I just don't think it's a good precedent to set.
I talked to him, I don't know, a half a dozen times and said, you really need to reconsider this. And he absolutely refused. And so I basically was just like, fine. And I'll tell you guys now, and I'm still not going to name the series, I absolutely refuse to go race there, because that tells me right there, A, the guy has no clue what he's doing, because he won't take advice from people, me who've been racing, and another guy who runs a race series. He won't even listen to them to think of why he should do it, and B, that his attitude in handling it, and we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. So that's going to be interesting, though. I'm glad IXCR is making some moves, and I think kind of on the heels of the GNCC news that they're not going to be running UTVs at all in 2019. I think it's a good move because I think a lot of the talent from GNCC is going to funnel towards IXCR.
It's going to go somewhere.
It's definitely going to go to more of the regional local series, but from just talking to drivers, a lot of them are from this region anyways.
Yeah.
That's where it's going to kind of funnel right now, it looks like.
I've been kind of shocked. I've seen several guys as soon as the announcement went out, like that day, my buggy's for sale. It's like, really? What did GNCC really do for you? And none of these were top-level guys.
That's just it. I keep hearing, well, it gave me national exposure. I said, you weren't at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I don't mean to be mean, but
well, and I was talking to Cody this weekend about it, and I said, these guys have no clue what's going on if they think that GNCC is going away. GNCC hosting the races is going away. All these people are going somewhere else to race. All the big names will for sure. These factory sponsors and the factory backing that they have is going to another series. It's just going to.
Yeah, you don't think Can-Am's is going to go, welp, I guess we're out of side-by-side racing.
We're done making stuff. We're just going out of business.
Buy your X3 now.
GNCC just closed the doors, so we're done. No, they're going to go, let's just say it's IXCR for kicks and giggles. So then now Can-Am, Yamaha, and everyone else rolls in with their big semis to IXCR. It didn't go away. It just moved to a different series.
Yep.
It's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think local series all over, not just in Indiana, but in different respective states, are just going to pick up the slack. People still want to race.
Yeah, people are still factory backed, and factories still want to sell those machines.
Yep.
Anyone who thinks any differently, if you think that it's going away and you should sell your machine, you should have sold your machine before you built it.
Yep.
It's goofy to think anything else.
Now, on the other hand, if you're looking to buy a race prep machine, now's kind of a good time.
Now's the time to jump on it before these guys realize what they're doing, because there's guys who've put $50,000 and they're selling it for $20,000.
Yeah.
Jump on those
It's
things.
like classic cars. You never get your money out of a race machine.
No.
So there's deals to be had for sure.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of machines, before we run out of time here entirely, there's a couple little doodads I wanted to get to. I wanted to revisit the 2019 lineup. We had mentioned that there weren't any major changes for Polaris in their 2019 lineup,
But then
they released several different things, and a couple things I want to touch on. They're not major changes, but there are some interesting lineup changes they've made. For instance, they've released the Razor S4 1000. So it's a 60-inch wide trail machine.
Yeah.
Basically what they've done is they've replaced the S4 900. They've just made it a 1000 machine.
Yeah.
So now you get 100 horsepower, 1000 cc engine in a 60-inch wide trail machine. And honestly, that thing should be
pretty good.
It'd be a whole lot of fun for ripping around trails.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with friends.
Yeah.
It's not a two-seater.
And, of course, the XP family's got the restyled exterior and interior of the Turbo S that came out in 18. Basically, all the 19s now have the new cockpit look in.
Yeah.
The Fang, front exterior we've talked about.
So even if you're just buying a regular XP Turbo, it kind of has that styling of the Turbo S front end and the interior dash and all that.
And it's more of a cockpit feel like Yamaha and Can-Am have done with the YXZ and the X3 respectively. It's kind of a more driver-centric setup. So if you wanted a Turbo S and didn't want to, shell out the coin just because the inside was nicer, you can just go get yourself an XP or an XP Turbo and have the same thing, basically.
Basically, what you lose on the exterior, if you really like those light-up fangs, you don't get those in the XP Turbo.
I'm sure some clever individual with some LEDs could
figure that out. Yeah. I've actually seen people with the Turbo S disconnect those lights because they say they can get obnoxious when you're riding, and if there's water, you'll see a reflection back.
Oh,
don't like them.
I could see that. I could see it too. If you're racing, you may not want to be the guy that stands out with the fangs on the front.
Yeah.
People look behind in their mirror and
They know who you are. Yeah.
You may not want that. Some of the XP models, including Ride Command LE, Trail Rocks, and Dynamics editions, get full doors.
That's good. I think that's a great addition to any side-by-side.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that they're doing that. We don't usually kind of stray into the Ranger market too much because we like fast bits.
Yeah.
But they are making some changes to the Ranger lineup as well, including they're doing a 3-passenger full-sized 570.
If you don't need the power and you're just, flat ground and kicking around the farm or something and you need to haul 3 people wide, great
And
idea.
they've got an XP 1000. They kind of have added that styling to some of the special edition models. They've got a 2- and 4-seater high lifter now.
Yep.
They've got a North Star edition, 20th anniversary editions. So there's some different stuff there in the Ranger market that they're doing as well. There's no diesel anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a huge seller anyways, because again, even the guys buying Rangers want some speed.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't buying them just as utility.
Yeah. And the other big thing is the Turbo S4.
That, in every sense of the word, a big thing. Chad is not impressed.
I don't want to sound like I'm beating them up, but this goes for the Turbo S and for the Turbo S4.
It's actually the 4 Turbo S.
4 Turbo S.
The 4's first.
Okay, whatever.
The full name is the Razor XP4 Turbo S. That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is. It's nothing against the actual machines. I'm sure they're great. I haven't ridden in one. Everybody says they're nice. Blah, 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 blah. My big problem is the price tags just keep on climbing. And the reality is the suspension on, we'll just say the normal Turbo S, not the 4-seater because they're both basically the same except longer. It's just an upgraded suspension. Everyone knew who bought a Razor prior to the Turbo S release. If you bought a Razor, you were very likely going to bend your radius rods and your lower control arms. It was just known. Like, plan on either upgrading them now or when you bend them, because you will bend them. They just did that for you.
Now, to be fair, it's not just beefier radius rods and stuff. They've gusseted the frame. I did mention that the cage had been reinforced, and then they recalled it because it folds up. But in theory, the new cage is better.
The new
cage after the recall is better. You also do get the RS1 front diff.
Yeah.
So you get the beefier front differential. The 32-inch tire stock is kind of okay, maybe that's an upgrade you don't have to do now. I don't like that 32-inch tire that they put on it. I would personally, and this is just a me personal thing, I would never buy that tire for the ground that we have around here. It would be horrible in any kind of slick mud. It would be. But every picture they show is it blasting around in the sand, and it's probably a pretty good tire for that, actually.
Yeah, rocks and desert, great.
Yeah.
Anything else? Not great.
So they have beefed it up all around in a lot of key areas. The updated interior used to be the calling card, but now that that's everywhere, that's not as big a deal. But you get, if a solid one-piece billet aluminum steering wheel matters to you, you do get that on the Turbo S's. Yeah. There are some changes. For somebody who doesn't want to do those upgrades themselves, they just want to go buy a beefier machine.
It is that.
Just go there and swipe your credit card or take out a loan or whatever, and you can drive it home and you're done. And that does fit a segment of the market.
But I don't like that it's 72 inches wide to do that. And that 72 inches, I question, not because I've put a tape to it yet, but mine says it's 64, and it's 64 jacked all the way up with the suspension drooped in as much as it'll go. Is it 72 or is it 76 inches?
Yeah, that I don't know off the top of my head, but I think the market for a lot of these is, especially the 4 Turbo S. Yeah. This is not the machine that you're going to take out and race. They're looking at 4 people like out in the desert or where, rock crawling or out in the dunes. The market for this machine in particular is not woods people. No. At all.
Because it's like 120 inches long or something?
Oh, it's a bus. Yeah. I think the Can-Am Max, the X3 Max, still has it in overall length, but both of these machines are enormous. There's no other way to describe it from a UTV perspective. Yeah. Compared to your, Ford Expedition XL, it's
About the same size.
Yeah. Or EL, I'm sorry. It's the L Expedition.
El Expeditiono. So
yeah.
that's my take on it. I'm not saying it's a bad machine at all. It's just
The MSRP is $30,500.
on the Turbo 4S.
And I'm sure there's some options you could probably throw on that to make it even a little more expensive if you wanted, but that's pretty tear jerking.
Yeah.
I won't lie.
$30,000. And you're still at 168 horse.
You are. But, there's
some upgrades. I'm not arguing that there are upgrades.
There's a segment of the market that wants this and will buy it, and I don't blame Polaris for not catering to it.
I have no problem with them offering that. I just won't be buying.
You will not be buying.
No.
Neither will I. I would rather have a machine that I upgraded, and if I need more, I'll just put a trailer behind it or something. Here's 2 extra seats bolted to a little 5x6 trailer frame.
Well, even if I was buying a 2-seater, I wouldn't go look at the Turbo S. I don't want something that wide. I really don't think their suspension is as strong as some of the aftermarket offerings. It's yet to be proven. That's just a hunch. I have no backing for that.
Yeah.
So I'll say that. I think you can get stronger suspension is what I'm saying.
Probably so.
For probably about the same money by the time you take all that stuff off and just buy an XP Turbo.
Yeah.
Which is the same motor.
Again, you're not the target audience.
Nope, I am not.
But that's all the stuff that's going on with Polaris. So we said earlier there weren't any huge changes. The 4 Turbo S is a huge change. I mean, that's a new model, but the other ones have some nice refinements. There are some changes. Some more information came out, so we thought we'd revisit the 2019 lineup and just kind of let you guys know what's going on there. And I'm sure Can-Am and Yamaha will be making some interesting announcements as well. They've already made some that we've already covered, but
yeah, there's always going to be more.
There's always stuff.
Yep.
Is it trivia time?
It is. Are you
trivial?
ready? Are you ready
do
for
I have
trivia?
to close my laptop so people know I'm not cheating?
I don't care.
Here, you can vouch. All it is our stuff sheet.
Yeah. List of things to talk about. So, it's been a little bit since it's just been you doing trivia. You've had other people to rely on.
Wow. It sounds like I'm just leaning on people like I need a crutch.
No, but you're letting them throw an answer out there, and then you can think about it. Does that sound right? Do I want to go that direction? Will I just say, yes, I agree in hopes that they're right?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I'm not saying you did that. I'm saying that could be perceived that way. So
I promise I will not think about anything I'm about to say.
The whole show. We just did the whole show like that.
Done and done.
Okay, question number 1. How many teeth do snails have? You just look at me like I just kicked your dog or something.
4.
About 2,000. They are very tiny, tiny teeth.
Oh my! Well, I would assume so. Snails aren't big.
Yes, they have many, many small.
Is their entire digestive tract just like a tube with teeth on it, like all the way down? Good grief!
I don't know how that works. So you were off a little bit.
That's nothing that had ever occurred to me to look up, but there it is.
There you go. Okay, question number 2. Andrew Jackson, president, had a parrot. It was kind of well known that he had a parrot.
As one does.
Yep. And it attended his funeral when he died. It attended Andrew Jackson's funeral. Why was the parrot kicked out of the funeral?
For screaming obscenities.
You are correct. It wouldn't stop swearing.
Yes.
Andrew Jackson had taught it to swear, and it wouldn't stop.
Andrew Jackson was, I don't want to say he was like world known as a foul-mouthed, sailor type of person, but people who knew him
knew that was how he was.
And your parrot will always out you.
So yeah, they had to kick his parrot out of the funeral because it wouldn't stop swearing.
That's awesome. I love it.
All right. Question number 3. Who was the first African American to play in an NBA game?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't really like NBA, so when it becomes a sport again, somebody let me know and I'll watch, but I probably just made some people mad.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're probably going to get a lot of NFL fans if the NFL keeps going the route they're going. But,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know far enough back. I mean, like
I would have never.
My history goes back to like Wilt Chamberlain,
Yeah.
And it wasn't him.
No, it was not.
All right.
No answer. Well, I'll let you get by with no answer on this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to guess at a name.
Okay. Earl Lloyd was his name.
Earl Lloyd. When did he play?
I don't have that stat in front of me.
Come on, man. I'm
sorry.
You should have figured that was the next logical question.
I know, but if I explain, in 1937, Earl Lloyd was the first basketball player, and he scored this many points, and he only played for this many seconds. How far do I go with my stats?
Fine.
Okay.
Just disappoint everybody. They're used to it.
Yep. Question number 4. What former pro athlete was actress Halle Berry's first husband?
Former pro athlete.
Yeah. In other words, they don't play their sport now.
Okay.
I will give you this much. They are popular. They were, when they played, they were a very popular pro athlete. Like everyone knew their name. It was not a, obscure person.
I know it's not this person, but I don't know who it is. So I'm just going to say Howie Long.
No, it was David Justice.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, they were married, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, were married? Are they divorced now? Or
yes, I believe they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another celebrity match made in heaven for 3 years.
Okay. Question number 5. What is the diameter of a basketball hoop?
Oh, man, that's one of those things you look at every day.
Yeah. And you never think about what size around is it?
Diameter?
Yep.
13 and a half inches?
18 inches.
Okay. Wow, the ball would just get stuck at 13 inches.
You can actually fit 2 basketballs through the hoop at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've actually seen that happen in a game where, they were shooting around beforehand. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So, yep, you were off a bit. Okay, question number 6.
That 3 was an 8. You know how you sometimes don't feel it? Okay.
In my mind, it was no. Question number 6. In The Simpsons, which I know you're a huge Simpsons
fan. Let me tell you.
Not really. That was a joke. Which character is allergic to milk?
Barney?
Nope. Milhouse. It's Bart's friend, Milhouse.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. I just figured since Barney was drunk all the time, then maybe that was his excuse.
Nope. Okay, question number 7. Which fast food chain marketed a meat-scented cologne called Flame in 2008?
That's kind of awesome. Was it Burger King?
It was.
I want a bottle of that. I will not wear it. I just want to know what it smells like.
I, at one point at a previous job, this was like when bacon stuff was all the craze, and I bought it because it was funny. They had bacon-scented hand sanitizer. That kind of smelled like bacon.
Oh, that's got to be really gross, though.
And then they had bacon, I don't remember if I think they were bacon-flavored effervescent tabs, like Alka-Seltzer type thing.
Oh, are you serious? That's horrible.
Oh, I tried one. Dude, make you sick. Like, instantly make you sick.
Yeah, bacon is not supposed to be an effervescent
bubbly.
affair. No, that's...
No, it was not good. Okay. So, yeah.
I kind of want some of those that like drop in my coworker's water when he's not looking.
Oh, it wasn't even like a bacon flavor. It tasted like you were drinking chemical runoff.
Nice.
Yeah, it was bad. Okay, question number 8. Who is Carlos Estevez better known as? This is a famous person.
Carlos Santana?
No. Charlie Sheen.
Oh, yeah.
That's his actual name.
Wow.
King of the Nose Candy.
I didn't realize that was his name.
Yeah.
Well, I know he's, Emilio Estevez. I mean, I know they're brothers, but I didn't. Okay. I figured he had changed his name, Emilio. I figured.
Oh, no. Charlie Sheen had.
Oh, okay. I'd always assumed it was the other way around.
Ah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Question number 9. I suspect you'll get this one, but Death Valley is located in which U.S. state?
Death Valley?
Yeah.
California.
Yes, you are correct.
Yay. Didn't you give me another Death Valley one? Isn't that the lowest?
Yes. Like the lowest
below
elevation.
Sea level, lowest elevation in the... Yeah, there you go.
I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was
100... I want to say it was 123 feet below sea level or something along those lines.
Yeah. It was 180 something feet. It was
low.
A lot of feet below.
One good wave getting far enough inland, and now you have a sea.
You have a pool.
The hot pool.
Okay, question number 10, last one. How many red squares are there on a standard checkerboard?
64.
32.
I was adding the red and black ones
No,
together. evidently.
no. The question was how many red ones, not how many red
That's
and
probably why I
black.
said 64, though, because isn't that the total?
I believe it is.
Okay,
yes.
that's probably why I thought that.
So.
Yeah, dividing by 2 might have been helpful there.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There is that. Your math skills have let you down again.
I never claimed to have any, so there you go. Well, I think you're bicycling the machine around the track. That's your stupid stuff with Chag. Is we probably need to put a bow on this thing.
Yeah.
But we do want to say thank you to our sponsors, of course, Watch Communications for hosting the podcast and our website. You can find them on the web at watchcom.net. And the code is still valid if you need web hosting for your church, for yourself, for your UTV organization, your kid's bar mitzvah, whatever you need a web page for. The code waste of time with no spaces, all lowercase, will get you 10% off your first month of hosting.
If you just want to put up a website with just the hamster dance music playing, they'll do that.
You could bring it back.
Yeah.
You could be that person that everyone hates. I wonder if hamsterdance.com is still there.
It is. I've looked.
The classics. Also want to say a big thank you to TGM Off-Road, UTV-Doors.com, UTV Engineering, Harrison Power Sports, CW Motorsports, and Spanx Fab.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
You guys have just been amazing at standing behind us, and we really, really appreciate the support. And as this thing continues to grow, hopefully, we're returning the favor by making people aware of the awesome goods and services that you provide.
Yep.
You can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com, on Facebook /Eminent Racing, on Instagram at Eminent Racing, and you can find the podcast on our YouTube channel. Just look for Eminent Performance. And you can also find us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio.
We are everywhere.
That is a really terrifying fact for the unsuspecting 7 billion population at large.
Yeah, but there's those 10 that are actually looking for us.
Might be 12 now. I don't want to short anybody. We're getting reviews. We got 2 reviews.
2.
So there's your other reminder. Go leave a review if you've enjoyed this. If you haven't enjoyed it, take some time, thumbs up, like, review, whatever you can do. We would greatly appreciate it.
Yep.
All right. And no matter whose UTV you've ruined this weekend, thanks for riding along with us.
Thanks, guys.
Tired of going down, tired of myself, tired of this town.